Good evening, Warriors, and welcome into another edition of the R&R Sports Report. I'm your host, Randy Isbell. With me, as always, Mr. Robert Hagan. Robert, man, what's happening?
Kind of enjoying a little bit of spring break,
Yes.
but today has been a busy day, family stuff, so it's kind of nice to get on here and talk a little sports.
Yes, it is the spring break edition of the R&R Sports Report. That's why we're back in our comfy homes and doing the show from here. Show note, though, over 3 of the next 4 weeks, we will also be at home and possibly slightly behind, possibly somebody stepping in for like the first hour. For me, I did not realize when I was looking at the Lewiston schedule that they had lots of Tuesday doubleheaders for some reason for baseball. Luckily, they start at 2 for the most part, so it'll be close to 6 when I get done, and it helps that I only live a few blocks away from the field, so I'll try to rush over here. So for those days that they have the doubleheaders at 2, just kind of keep your eyes peeled. We will get on as soon as possible and give you your full 2-hour show. On the 1 week where they do start at 3, we may need somebody to step in at least for that first hour or so. So just keep an eye out on that. Things we will still be out here on Tuesday for the entire month of April. It's just slight scheduling conflicts as high school sports continue to make our lives fun.
Always, I mean that's what we're here for is these high school sports. Lots going on, especially this week though. It's kind of a little slower.
Yep.
Everybody in the valley is on spring break. You get away from the valley, everybody else is on the last week before spring break.
Right.
So be kind of crazy seeing what happens, especially with the Spokane schools getting ready to go to break here shortly too. So.
And another note, we are just 28 followers away from 700. Again, thank you guys so much for that. We still need ideas for what to do when we hit 700. We've still been in talks with Austin. He is on vacation this week, so hopefully when he comes back, we will be able to finally pay off the 600 goal of having the MMA class. It looked like we were going to have it all set up and be able to talk about it here, but just the one day that Austin was available was the one night or Robert was not. And that's just kind of how it works. And that's how scheduling these things just becomes a bit of a headache. But 600 will happen. We will go through the training process for one night. And now we are looking for what we should do when we hit 700 because it's coming up faster than we think.
It's coming up way faster. But I don't know. We did talk about getting with Khalil and them doing basketball. Not much of a shooter. I'm afraid I'd get swatted by Khalil.
Absolutely, especially if Khalil's on my team, we win. That's just how it goes. I'll just keep giving him the rock. It's just, I'll pass it to him every time. I'm not afraid. On today's show, not a ton to talk about, but everything we're going to be talking about has a lot of substance to it, so we're still going to easily fill the 2 hours. We have our big Major League Baseball preview. It's 2 days away. Opening day or opening week or whatever they're calling it this year. Just 2 days away. Spring training is now done. Nobody plays tomorrow, and then everybody plays on Thursday the way it should be. Everybody should be playing on the first day of baseball. We will have our awards predictions. We already gave you all of our division predictions, but we'll give you our wild cards along with who will make and win the World Series. We have another fun sports related draft, which is one of 900 different versions of ideas that Denny Grubb sent to us over on the R&R Sports Report Facebook page. Robert Hagan picked that one out. Of course, it is now time for the final four for both the men's and women's bracket. Spoilers, neither of us got anything. I think you got one final, or on the men's side, we're just done. It's over. Yep. We're kaput. You did get Virginia Tech into the Final Four. Of course, we both had South Carolina winning the whole thing. But it's over. Both the brackets challenges for us are over now. I win the men's bracket. You win the women's bracket. So we will talk about that. Of course, we'll talk about Brian Orr stepping away from LC. Kind of a surprise story that came out of nowhere. I'll kind of talk about how I found out about it. Of course, baseball is in midseason, and they are not as dominant in this Cascade Conference as they once were. We'll talk about that. Of course, rest of the Warrior Athletics high school sports. And then we wrap up the show, partially because our Aussie Rules football teams are far worse than we predicted. And I predicted my team to finish second to last. But also, it is WrestleMania week. A lot of wrestling going on. I was told by Robert Taylor he will be in attendance at SoFi Stadium for WrestleMania. So we will have all of our predictions for both nights. They have not fully listed which matches are going to be on which night. A couple of them have been announced throughout, but we will go through all of the cards and give you who we think are going to win those matches. Of course, all the other sports as well. But we have to start with the biggest story of the week. NFL offseason once again finding a way to lead our show. And finally, it's not about my team. Now, Aaron Rodgers still has not been traded. We are still waiting for the Packers and Jets to finally come to terms with whatever deal that they're going to. And we will talk about some of the moves that the Jets made last week, which possibly could help with those moves. But there's another person on this show whose team has quarterback problems as well, even though he refused and he refused and he refused. And now, Robert Hagan, how do you refuse the report that Lamar Jackson has tweeted out himself that almost a month ago he requested a trade from your Baltimore Ravens?
So, yes, as of March 2nd, it is reported. I can't even start my sentence, and Eric Watkins is like, I told you so. No, listen. I'd like to know a little bit more detail of where they're so far apart and why they've treated each other so badly down the road, because you hear all the coaches and everybody that's talked about, they want him there. Even yesterday in John Harbaugh's question and answer time during the winter meetings here, just yesterday, we're still planning for him being our quarterback. The more it's looking, with everything going on, it's like he wants out. He wants to just move away from it. But, I think there's got to be somebody in the front office that he's just not happy with, whether that's the GM, but, they've got to get him some targets. That's the big part. And so,
so here's the thing for me, as an outsider to this stuff. Obviously, I've been very focused on the Jets and possibly the Aaron Rodgers deal. But seeing this, to me, is a clear-cut case on the importance of having an agent in sports. We always used to make fun of agents, and they're slimy, they're sleazeballs. We've all seen like the shows Arliss and all of that stuff. And we see the bad side of agents, and agents are cocky, and agents are just there to try to get the money. Agents are that middleman that help keep the player away from the bad things that these teams are going to say about you during these negotiations to try to get to a point where they're not paying you as much as you think that you want. So they tell that to the agent, then the agent is able to spin it to the player to make them go, all right, I guess they have a point there, instead of just hearing, well, you're not that good. You're good, but not that good. And then that gets in your head and it goes on. Also, all we are hearing through all of this last month, 2 months, or even, I guess, back in December when he was still injured, and every week, oh, he'll be back, and then he wasn't. And I've tried to battle you a few times with this, where you go, well, Lamar said this. Well, Lamar hasn't said much of anything. And we're not even getting much of Lamar's side because he doesn't have an agent to then kind of leak things out to the Adam Schefters of the world. Like, Lamar's not going to do that, but that's another important job that an agent has. Is this is really our story, and then it can come out as a leak, and you're like, well, Lamar didn't do that. It got leaked, and we don't know where that came from, but we're getting our information out there. That's what Baltimore has been able to do. That's what all these other teams have now been able to do by saying, well, we have no interest in Lamar because we don't want this fully guaranteed contract thing to become, second nature now to quarterbacks where all contracts have to be fully guaranteed. We don't want to be like baseball. So Lamar needs an agent. And I'm talking a real agent, not his buddy that he's doing the weird fitness program with that was calling teams on his behalf.
Yeah, not having somebody to represent you is just huge. It's like going into a courtroom and facing a judge for grand theft or something like that. You've got to have somebody that's going to be in your corner supporting you 100%. And that's the thing is it's a he said, she said with what did the Ravens offer him? What did they tell him? Darn good and well that they needed his opinion with the new offensive coordinator coming in. I think they hired him because of that. So, about 2 months ago, yes, it looked like the Ravens were doing everything that they could to appease Lamar, to make him stay. But it sounds like everything coming out of Baltimore, they've offered him just about everything except, a home and a skybox the rest of his life and
partial ownership of the team.
Yeah, I mean, everything just seems to be and without having that the guy in there to bounce ideas with us, I think that it's tough. And DeCosta is not the best. He's now Ozzie Newsome, and that's the big thing with that. And maybe this is kind of the difference between what we're seeing right now is what the Ravens have had for so many years with Ozzie Newsome, a GM that everybody loves, and I'm not seeing that same love with DeCosta.
That's partially true. And obviously, again, with Lamar having to deal with it himself or his mom's doing it or whatever's happening, obviously feelings have gotten hurt in this whole situation, and who knows where it's going to end up. But I know if I would have asked you this question back in January, you would have told me 100%. Now I'm curious where you're at now, March 28th, after the report and the tweet and everything that has come out. What is your percentage of Lamar returning to Baltimore next season?
As much as I want to be on John Harbaugh's wagon, knowing that he is 100% coming back, I don't see that. I'm almost to the point where this is going to be a coin flip. If they can't get things done, he's definitely out. Now, where that's a whole nother realm of who would want to pick up his contract and what's going on and who's going to put out that much money for him, whether it is going down and playing it in Atlanta, which, they've thrown that team out. They've thrown out Indianapolis. At one point we heard the Jets, but the Jets have said, no, we're not interested in him.
Well, we're a little busy.
Yeah.
With a different quarterback right now.
So, I mean, as far as I believe right now, if I had to call it today, I would actually reach in my pocket, flip my Lamar coin and say, heads he's staying, tails he's gone.
So it'd be really interesting. I think this will be a lot like what we're seeing with Aaron Rodgers, and it's not going to be concluded anytime soon. I don't even think it'll be concluded by the draft at this point. Honestly, I think it's more so that there's going to be teams that are expecting to draft a quarterback that maybe the draft doesn't go their way, and Lamar kind of becomes the backup plan. It'll be interesting to see what Baltimore says going forward, if they also will go, okay, we are looking in to trade him, because I think that is part of the reason why we're seeing teams not jumping out offers to Lamar, because you're just going to throw out an offer and then Baltimore can match it. And then you just wasted your time and upset the quarterback you have on your team right now. If they know for certain that Baltimore will not match them for their contract offer and then just give them the 2 first-round picks. That's one way to go. There's also another way now with Lamar showing that he's requested the trade and kind of pushing things that maybe Baltimore can say, okay, sign your franchise tag with the understanding that we are dealing you to this team for a completely different package of picks / players to this team and go around the 2-pick setup that the franchise tag has set up right now for other teams to offer you contracts and go, okay, sign with us and we will trade you for this team and we can get their quarterback back and a few draft picks and rebuild our own way as well. So there's now other options if Baltimore chooses to do so. I just don't think Baltimore wants to do anything. I think Baltimore is going to wait out Lamar and say, no, you're still with us.
And that's kind of where I'm at. So you make a great comment about not getting done before what is, I'm blanking on the date of draft.
1 month. 1 month from yesterday is the first round.
So you look at the depth chart now. You've got Tyler Huntley. You've got Anthony Brown, both who played this year, but I don't see either one of them, and then this is bad to say, I don't see either one of them being that main quarterback there. Mm-hmm. You look at the draft area right now where the Ravens would be drafting. They're at number 22. I don't see a huge number of quarterbacks that fall that far that will be making that. So it's going to have to be a free agent pickup. It's going to have to be some other trade if this does not pan out. But I could be wrong. Maybe they ride or die it with Tyler Huntley.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we'll see. I mean, it's an interesting situation we have going on with both of our teams as far as the quarterback situation goes. Some other free agency stuff. Obviously, Tony Pollard was put on the franchise tag. He has signed that tag worth just over $10 million. They still have till July to come up with a deal just in case, or to try to make things work out. But at least they have that as a fallback. Some backup quarterbacks were signed throughout this last week. Jarrett Stidham, the old Raiders quarterback, stays in the division, goes to Denver. My quick question to you there is, obviously he's not going to be in a competition with Russell Wilson. However, is this a smart pickup from Denver? Because Stidham just played for a division rival that there's a chance that you were battling with for a wild card spot.
Could have a lot of intel of structure and what was going on. I think it's a good move. I think they do adjust and that, but I mean, you've got a guy that's got a little bit of youth behind Russell Wilson after proving this last year he was not that guy. I was more intrigued with their running back signing with Mr. P. Ryan signing with Denver. I think that's going to add a little bit to their run game, but it's going to be interesting with two new an OC and an OD there, a DC and an OC there in the new season. So it'll be interesting to see how camps play out here in the next what is it? I think it's 6 weeks or 7 weeks, the optional camps that they can start going to.
It comes up quick, that's for sure. So, also, Philadelphia replacing Gardner Minshew with Marcus Mariota as their backup quarterback. I think that's a pretty good pick. Mariota's had multiple starts throughout his career just in case Jalen Hurts does get hurt. I think Mariota is that perfect quarterback to put in there. A lot of veteran leadership just in case Jalen Hurts gets injured in the next season.
Yeah, even with his getting older, Mariota still can run the ball, can make things happen a little bit, but it's a backup plan to have him in there. I think Atlanta was okay with him moving on and being there because, it's time for Desmond Ridder to finally take his spot, depending on what happens with this whole Lamar thing and all that. So it'll be interesting to see where they go with the rest of it, because even Gardner Minshew said, he didn't know what was going to happen, and there was a chance of, Lamar going to Indianapolis. So I think it's to the point now that we are it's like a chess game, and we're trying to figure out which pawn we're going to move
Right. Yeah.
before the queen comes in and takes it. That's the way I feel about the last 2 weeks of this NFL free agent time. Is it feels like not a stagnant, but kind of not a stalemate, but more of a stagnant chess game going on.
Yeah, I mean, everyone now is eyeing the draft. We're, like you said, about exactly 1 month away. First round again is the 27th of April. But I think you nailed it perfectly with the chessboard and the pawns and stuff. That's exactly what the Jets have been doing while they await whatever they can figure out with Green Bay. They sign former Chiefs wide receiver Mecole Hardman, and then that same day trade Elijah Moore, who was begging for a trade last year. They go, okay, you can go to Cleveland, and they also send a 3rd round pick with the wide receiver for the Browns' 2nd round pick. So now the Jets have back-to-back picks in the 2nd round, and I do not think come draft time they will be making both of those picks.
No, I don't see it happening either. I think they move another little piece. All right, let's move our rook this time. Let's make a gamble move, and that's kind of the way I feel right now.
Could you see draft day coming? Rodgers still has not been traded. Jets pick at 13, make their pick, whoever it's going to be. We'll get into that in a few weeks. Hopefully, an offensive lineman. And then do what they did last year, and they trade back up into the 1st round where they got Jermaine Johnson last year. But they trade back up into the 1st round and then trade that 1st round pick for Aaron Rodgers during the draft. Could you see that happening?
I don't know, because even in the article and when I'm seeing the one I read yesterday is they weren't too concerned about giving up a 1st round pick for Aaron Rodgers. So I don't think
they're not giving up a 13. They're not giving up the 13th pick.
No, I don't see that happening at all. So
but if they could, I'm sorry, but if they can trade up to like 28, 29 with those 2 2nd round picks they have now and say, all right, we got our 13th pick. Here's your 1st round pick you've been wanting, but it's later in the draft and it's not their 13th. It's possible, but it'd make draft night really fun, especially if we do our live stream again.
Yeah, our picks were so out of wonk, trying to make those picks last year, and I don't remember who was the first one off the board that we were all kind of dumbfounded about. But that's the beauty. That's the beauty of the whole draft is we never know, what's going on. This is the same question I asked you 2 weeks ago. What is it to be a GM sitting in there, and what kind of things are you looking at as a GM to help push your business, or basically what it is your business, push your business to be the front runner in the design aspect.
Yes, exactly. Our draft picks last year were our brackets this year. 100% right by Eric Watkins, who once again, Eric, I've already messaged you this, but apologies to your Miami Hurricanes and our disrespect to the Hurricanes, knocking them out in the opening round. Miami in a Final Four team, and the weirdest ass Final Four that you've ever Final Foured ever. We'll get into that in the 2nd hour, but holy crap. The one thing that I am sure of for the rest of this tournament is ratings are not going to be great.
Probably not at all. I mean, which one do you predict the most there? I mean, that's the biggest part.
We'll get there. We'll get there. Other wide receivers on the move. Chark was with Carolina, right? At some point.
At one point, he was in Detroit last year.
There you go. Nelson Aguilar ends up in Baltimore. So you have I want to say Aguilar is 103 years old at this point, right? He's been around the league for a long time. And then a former Vandal, Caden Ellis, ends up signing with Atlanta. So very cool there. Idaho also just had their draft day little combine, their team combine deal
today
up there in Moscow. Yeah.
Today was their first day for spring practice, so
it was. And they had that too. So apology accepted. Sweet. All right, got that out of the way. Also, we cannot move on to baseball until we bring up the Seattle Mariner or Seattle Seahawks. I'm in baseball mode. Seattle Seahawk move. Bobby Wagner coming back home. He is back with the Seahawks, signed a 1-year deal. So Seahawks fans can like him again. They all hated him for a moment. Now they can be happy with him again, right?
I don't know. Do they rebuild that whole defense again around him? I mean, they gave him a 1-year deal. He wasn't as impressive in LA this past year as he has been in the past, but he too, sir, is getting quite old, and so
to me, that's a player coach situation. That's Pete Carroll bringing back somebody that's been around that organization a long time that he can teach this young crew who, again, completely outperformed what we thought they were going to do last year. And I don't know if they're going to take a huge step back this year. I mean,
could it be you say a coaching role? Could it be a mentor role to Jordan Brooks? Because Jordan Brooks has looked quite well, last year in what they did, so what is I'm trying to see here. I'm trying to figure out. Bobby Wagner's 32 years old. So
what an old man.
Well, he's on the older side, but
football years, absolutely. All right, so we will see what happens with Lamar Jackson and Aaron Rodgers and any other crazy free agency stuff that happens over the next week, and we'll get back into that. But we said it before: Major League Baseball season starts in 2 days. Spring training concluded today, and now that everyone will have a day off, and what should have been the main thing is every team plays on Thursday. Absolutely love it. MLB The Show is already out. Well, at least for me, I splurged a few extra bucks and got the early access, so I got it a week early. I'm already 8 games into my season because I can't put that game down. But
did you get your T-Mobile today?
Yes, T-Mobile I had mine set up.
I had mine done at I had mine done at 7:30 this morning as I'm sitting at the daughter's house. Already.
T-Mobile giving us MLB TV for free for the year. Again, thank you to them.
Sucks for me though.
Yeah, you can't watch the Mariners. Can't watch your Mariners. I can watch the Yankees all year long. It's going to be great. I'll be watching a lot of baseball throughout the season. Anybody that has watched this show knows that the two most important sports to us is the NFL, Major League Baseball, and then Aussie Rules football is probably third. It's up there with some of the smaller sports like bowling and golf and stuff. But yeah, it's free on Game Pass or whatever. But to me, that just feels sacrilege to play that game on an Xbox. It's a Sony program. You can't really see it, but this top right corner right here that I'm pointing at is every MLB The Show ever made until like 21, and then I went fully digital, so I haven't bought the last few on. What was it? I guess it was 20. MLB The Show 20 was the last one I bought before I went fully digital. But I need to go back and buy some of those older ones. But I have all the way from when they switched it to the show in 2006, all the way to 2020 over there. The MLB The Show is one of my favorite gaming franchise. It is my yearly subscription fee that I will pay gladly just for the roster updates and the slight changes. I've only touched it a little bit, but they do a cool little feature on the Negro League. And they take, from what I've seen so far, they take a few players from the Negro League, and you kind of go through their career, and they talk about them and throw all this stuff. Doing the Satchel Paige stuff, and I forgot all the different names he names his pitches. And you pitches him once, and it just says fastball and curveball and all that stuff. And then you see another video where they talk about him naming all these pitches. And then from then on, your pitch meter, where you pick which pitch you're going to pitch, or all the goofy names that he gave his pitches. It's kind of cool. I like it. It's a lot of fun.
I've been trying to tell myself I've got to buy that game, but like I told you last week, I'm kind of, and I know we weren't supposed to tell Haley this, but I'm holding out for PGA
Yeah,
23, 2K23.
and that is the deal that I have made. I am now no longer in the market for the new PGA game. That was my forfeit to get this game early because you had to pay a little bit extra to get the game early. So I went, all right, I just won't even worry about PGA. I got the new wrestling game. I got Resident Evil 4. I got MLB The Show. I got a lot of video gaming that I can do. So I will wait for PGA to hit some kind of a big deal, a big sale in the fall or something if things loosen up. But baseball is a big thing for both of us. We both follow the LC Warriors, watch several of those games per year, help out over there when we can, watching baseball all the time. So very, very excited for this year. Again, we went through all of the divisions over the last 3 weeks. Now it is time for the individual awards and who we think is going to win it all. And again, we want everyone out there to let us know their predictions as well. Robert, are you ready?
I am kind of ready because I was shocked with a couple of the ones that I went with, and a couple of them I kind of coin flipped, and so I can't wait.
Not the Mets.
Not the Mets.
All right, let's start with a more boring pick. The manager of the year. How about your American League manager of the year? Where are you going?
Listen, I'm going to go with the old man. I'm going with a guy that has been around for a long time, just because I like what I think Cleveland's got a chance to run with it. Give me Terry Francona winning the AL Manager of the Year.
I had a really hard time, especially with the American League, because I do think the Yankees are going to win the East, but I'll be in the ground before Aaron Boone ever wins a Manager of the Year award. I obviously you can't really win one with Houston because they're just so good, unless like Dusty Baker goes out there and has Houston win 120 games and breaks some records. I just don't see Houston doing it. I liked your pick with Cleveland. We both have the Guardians winning the Central, so that's a possible pick. But I went with John Schneider with Toronto. I really think with how young that team still is, we've been saying this for the last few years, but the talent, while getting a little older, is still very young, is ready to take that next step. And I do think they are the biggest threat to the Yankees to win the AL East. And they definitely could go out there and win the division. So I'm going to have John Schneider win the AL Manager of the Year, kind of a sneak preview to one of the 3 wild cards that I have in the American League. But these Manager of the Year awards are interesting anyways, because usually it's to one of the people that are the best teams in the league. Sometimes it's sneaking in there. No, they're not. I don't think they would still give it to Boone. And I do think the Yankees, if they can stay healthy, which has not been the case yet, can get up to the 100 win thing. I'm taking the over the 89 wins. I think their bar is set out. But the Manager of the Year awards are always tough because I thought Scott Servais should have won it last year. Seattle really took a big jump. I was looking through different previews today trying to figure out where everyone else was leaning, and a lot of people were leaning on these up and coming teams like a Texas. Was like, I don't think Texas is going to make the playoffs. So is he really going to have a chance to win it? I don't think so. So went with Toronto for mine. How about National League Manager of the Year?
Well, let me show you mine, because Denny Grubb and I, great minds think alike. I am going Rob Thompson. The move to get Trey Turner up there, I think it's going to be enough of a spark for that franchise to get there. Now, I do not have Philadelphia winning. I do have them making the playoffs, so that'll a little hint there. But I think that division is going to be a tough one again this year.
Yes.
Like I said, though, I do say Atlanta takes a step back. I kind of got a little poke and prodded after I had made that comment that they were that I was taking Atlanta to take a step back. I think that's happens, and it's all going to boil down to what Rob Thompson does with this team, I think.
That's fair, and we'll see what the Phillies can do. Obviously, they were more of the surprise during the postseason last year, snuck into the playoffs and made the run to the World Series. Can they battle for a division win in the NL East, especially with Edwin Diaz going down for New York, and you believe Atlanta taking a step back? So we will see. To me, again, this could be a sneak preview as to where I might be leaning later on, but I do have San Diego winning the NL West, which would be just the second time in 11 years that the Dodgers don't win that division. So to me, it's a lock if that happens that Bob Melvin will end up winning the National League Manager of the Year. Denny also goes with the White Sox coach, Pedro Griffel, which I can see if they can take that last year. I want to see I had White Sox in the World Series last year.
And we were both huge on Tony La Russa to push that team to make it to the playoffs and at this time last year. And so
yeah, so we'll see
I hope you're right.
Yeah, we'll see what Pedro is able to do. But since Denny Grubb is here, let's get to it. The American League Rookie of the Year. I will go first because I was doing our big fantasy baseball auction draft on Sunday with the full intention of drafting this young man. Though I really wish that we had drafted a few weeks ago, where most people other than our buddy Richie would have really had this name at the tip of their tongue, but was not the case. I still ended up drafting him late in the draft and hope to keep him for many years to come. While we were doing the draft, we did get word that he made the Major League roster. That is, of course, Anthony Volpe, new shortstop for the New York Yankees. Seeing comparisons to, as you said, Trey Turner, which I hope is the case. So obviously, numbers in spring training are a figment of imagination. It's just kind of how it works. But Volpe looks like he's ready. He's made some fantastic plays into position, has some power and some speed, and I think he will be in the 9 spot for this Yankee lineup, which will put him basically on the come around right in front of DJ, right in front of Aaron Judge and Stanton and whoever else is healthy after the first week or two. But he's going to be in a beautiful position to get a lot of run. And I think that's what they're going to do. And that is why Addison Volpe is your Rookie of the Year. Adelaide's not even a rookie anymore. Stop it. However, let Robert appease you a little bit.
Listen, I'm going to appease it, and yes, I'm going to say Gunnar Henderson, but I noticed today, as of today, he does not make the Major League roster. He will be up, but
any
Oriole. But I think he's going to get his chance, and he's going to make a difference. I'm going to go with Gunnar Henderson in this one.
Yeah, I don't blame you. And just because he doesn't make the roster now, most likely he'll be up in, say, May. Mm-hmm. And if you have a good season from there, I think you're in the running. And I mean, that's a good pick as well. How about your National League Rookie of the Year? Because I almost went this route too.
I'm going to go with Miguel Vargas. I mean, he's looked decent in spring training. I think that he's going to be a nice little catalyst for this team. Losing Turner there, I think him and Mookie Betts can keep this team going, and maybe the Dodgers can make a good push in this season where they have last year they kind of seemed like it just didn't click 100% the whole time.
Yeah, and with Vargas, he's very versatile defensively. I think he's listed as a first baseman. He'll most likely play mostly at second. Has played third in the minors, can play some outfield too. So he's going to be one of those players that you just kind of throw wherever you need a hole fit. But I'm going exactly where Denny Grubb is going. Jordan Walker, one of the most talented youngsters that it will be on their first major league rosters on opening day. He also made the cut for St. Louis, and I watched that video. I love those videos where they bring him in and act like, oh, you know, you had a good spring, but you know how it is. You need more reps and such, and then, oh, never mind, you're here with the team. I always love those videos and the goofy ways the managers are able to do it. But just the most talented out of any of these young guys that we've talked about. Jordan Walker to me is the front runner right now for NL Rookie of the Year. AL Cy Young Award now, and I almost went your route, but I already took a Yankee for Rookie of the Year. I wanted to then go with another Yankee, but they're all hurt at the moment. So I'm going to go with Dylan Cease. Give me Dylan Cease for the Chicago White Sox. They're going to need a bunch of people bouncing back to come back and win that AL Central and kind of make that playoff push. But I think Cease is going to have a really good season and could get the White Sox into the playoffs if all is said and done. So give me Dylan Cease as my AL Cy Young Award winner. Who do you got?
I'm going to go Garrett Cole. I mean, I think he is probably the guy that is going to be most successful in the AL East. I think he is going to be. I'm taking a big step in the dark. I think he's going to be an 18-game winner. I really think he's going to up his numbers from last year. His ERA was a little on the high side this past year, 3.5. I think he brings it down a little bit. So I'm going to go with Garrett Cole from your New York Yankees, sir.
I will say this for both Cole and Alex Manoah, as Denny Grubb has predicted, and anybody in that AL East, or we can pretty much say the AL West now because that's become a tougher division. They're going to benefit greatly from the balanced schedule now that the Major League Baseball does. You're no longer playing 18, 19 games against division rivals. You're going to get more opportunities to play the weaker AL Central, the NL Central. You're going to be able to spread these games out a bit more. Being able to get a start or two more against the Kansas City Royals instead of Toronto will be a big help for Garrett Cole or for Manoah. So it'll be interesting to kind of see how that all plays out. Now you're not just facing your division 5 times.
Yeah, and easily to say, I even contemplated taking a Mariner in that role, just because of how things are changing. Robbie Ray had a down year last year after his trade to Seattle. I think he bounces back. You could easily have said Luis Castillo, and I could have even went that way and felt comfortable. But you look at the AL pitching. The AL pitching is pretty stout pitching.
Yeah, for sure. All right, how about your NL Cy Young?
I'm going with an older man on the move. Give me Justin Verlander. I think he is going to be the workhorse up in New York. A new scenery with him. I think he's could make a difference in this Mets club. I think he does help this team take another step to get past and maybe even make it to the NLCS.
That's fair. But once again, Danny and I on the same page. Spencer Strider for Atlanta, not an old man like Justin Verlander, but he showed some fantastic signs last year. I think he takes another big step, and Atlanta is absolutely going to need him in this pitching staff to dominate. And I think that's what Strider will do. So give me Spencer Strider for my NL Cy Young. But no love for McClanahan. No, that's true. McClanahan was up there, Tampa Bay pitcher. But we did not go that route. All right, how about your American League most valuable player? Last year was Aaron Judge, and he needed 62 home runs to do it. Who do you got?
A minute ago we saw this name pop up, and I agree with Robert Taylor, and it's got to be Shohei Ohtani this year.
I agree partially with Robert Taylor. It should not have been Shohei Ohtani last year. But go ahead.
No, I think he is quite. He should get that one. And like you and I talked, I don't think that Judge gets back and hits another 60. I think he's going to be in the I think we talked about it between the 45, 50 range. It's still going to be impressive numbers, I think, for Judge. But I think Ohtani, it's his year. I think he makes a statement and then takes a step out of LA for somewhere else.
So that is my concern. Because I said a lot of last summer that it was going to take a historic achievement to topple Shohei Ohtani for the MVP award, especially with what he did last year. He was a very, very good hitter, and he was a fantastic pitcher last year. But there's always a chance. There's a chance that Shohei Ohtani could get traded at the trade deadline. If the Angels are out of it and they feel like Shohei is not going to re-sign with them, it behooves them to trade him for everything they can to some contender. And there's a chance that contender's in the National League. And then he can't win the American League MVP. However, Shohei Ohtani, if he stays in the American League, which I will predict, it would be an astronomical feat for the Angels to trade Ohtani and get enough back for him, even for a few month rental, that I am also with you. I will take Shohei Ohtani to win this year's MVP. And I'm kind of with Eric. He could finish top 3 in both. For sure. And like you said, there's a lot of fantastic pitchers in the American League. All right. National League MVP. This one was a bit tougher. Who you got?
I'm going to take a guy in it, and this is going to be my second one from this ball club, but I'm taking a stab at it. I'm saying Mookie Betts. I mean, I know last year's numbers were not as impressive, but it's going to come down to the point of where we're leaning on this team a little bit more because of the lack of I don't want to sound mad because it's a business and these players move a lot and losing Justin Turner. I think it's going to boil down to it's going to be Freddie Freeman and it's going to be Max Vargas who's going to be playing well. Mookie Betts is going to be that leader out there in the outfield, which
or
I
second.
think. Oh yeah, or
he played second last year a lot. It was weird.
Yeah, so yes, you've got Max Muncy coming back. Do I think this team makes a push? Yes. I think he has to be the catalyst to push this team on down the road with Freddie Freeman. I think Freddie is also probably top 10 in the MVP voting if those two can coexist all the way down and push this team. But Clayton Kershaw in this lineup, there's lots of things that can happen to get these guys the opportunity to play well.
Clayton Kershaw and his 15 starts he'll make. Is that what you're trying to say?
Yeah, pretty much.
To me, again, semi-spoilers to where I'm going to go in the next section of this preview. But there was one man who got traded and struggled with his new team. I think he was trying a bit too hard to impress everybody on a team that was actually contending again. I think he settles back in. He settles into his role, and he leads San Diego to an NL West crown. That's Juan Soto. I think he's not only going to win the National League MVP, but he's almost a lock for National League Comeback Player of the Year or the Bounce Back Player or whatever the weird title they have for it in Major League Baseball. But Soto really struggled last year, both with the Nationals and then with the Padres. Now here with his new team and with how stacked that team is right now, I think he's going to be the catalyst. He is going to put up ridiculous numbers. And Juan Soto will be your National League MVP. And he's going to lead my fantasy team to a championship.
That's why you took him. That's
why I drafted him. However, I also really tried to get Mookie Betts and got outbid. I think Mookie Betts actually ended up being the highest valued player in our draft on Sunday. It got up there pretty good. All right. So again, we told you our division winners over the last 3 weeks if you have been with us, but there are 3 other teams in each league that still need to make the playoffs. So let's go through these real quick. American League playoffs, I had the Yankees, the Guardians, and the Astros winning their division. So I have 3 teams left, and I kind of went boring, and I just took one team from each division, though it was very tempting to not go that route. But I do think Toronto is a very, very good team, has a good chance to win the AL East, especially if the Yankees continue to have all these injury issues in the pitching rotation that they've already shown in the spring. Yankees had a pitching rotation set at the beginning of the year. 60% of that rotation is already out. So it's a good start for New York. But Toronto is one of my wildcard teams. The Seattle Mariners, who made the playoffs last year and swept out Cleveland before losing to Houston. I think they continue to grow. I don't think they're quite ready to get past Houston, but I do think Seattle will make the playoffs. And then we do have a Baltimore Oriole fan listening. We do have a Tampa Bay Ray fan listening. So I'm taking the Minnesota Twins to be the 3rd wild card team. There you go.
You know, I looked at this after you typed
Denny, you need one more wild card team, sir. Denny over here thinking it's last year's rules or 2 years ago's rules. We got 3 wild cards now, sir. The Orioles winning the division. He needs to simmer down. And he has Seattle winning the division too. I just realized that.
You and I agree on all of our first placements.
Great.
Yankees coming out of the East. They're taking 2 spots, Denny?
Yes. Denny wants them in twice.
It must bring.
It's a better chance to advance.
Yeah. So you and I agree with the winners coming out of each of the divisions: Houston, Cleveland, and New York. I'm going to agree with your teams in a slightly different order.
I didn't put them in an order, by the way.
Oh, I put mine in order. I put mine in the order I think that they will finish. And so for me, I've got Seattle in that first wild card. I think they do make strides. Can it be less than 5 games between them? I think it could be a possibility as long as J-Rod stays healthy. We get the bats going like they have been playing. I'm going to put them first there. I'm putting Minnesota just barely ahead of Toronto. So I have the same wild cards as you do. I think the Minnesota-Toronto one could flip either way in the second wild card or third wild card.
That's fair. All right. Who do you have winning the American League? Who will represent the American League in the World Series?
I can't believe I'm saying this. The New York Yankees. I have your Yankees.
Right. It's been so long.
I think Garrett Cole, it can be great there. I think with what Judge is doing, I honestly think that this team has a chance to make another big push. Rizzo, Torres, Volpe. I have not seen him play yet. I keep everything I've read. I'm kind of excited to watch that on his first game on Thursday.
Yeah, I agree with Denny. Watch the Twins. I do have them in the postseason. I will not have the Twins, though, be the AL champion, and I can't take the Yankees. Just how hot they started last year and completely fell off in the second half. The embarrassing coaching by Aaron Boone. I can't do it. They will make moves at the deadline as well, and they already have one of the best, if not the best, rosters in the American League. So I'm not taking the Yankees. I cannot, in my right mind, take Houston. I don't care how good that team is. I refuse and never will. So I'm going to take Toronto to represent the American League. The Blue Jays back into the World Series if everything goes the way I predict it. So we will see. We both have an American League East team representing, so it'll be an AL Central team for sure. National League, we both had the Mets winning the NL East. We both had the Cardinals winning the Central. I had the Padres. You had the Dodgers in the West. So who are your 3 wild card teams?
For me, I am still high on Milwaukee. I like what that team can do. Their starting pitching is going to be very good. You've got Corbin Burns. You've got I'm drawing a blank. Woodruff. I think that team is going to take another step. You've got Yelich. I think that they are that team. I have San Diego right behind them in the second wild card team. And then the team that I've kind of been on watching, I think the Phillies are just out of winning the top side, but I think the other two teams are just slightly a little bit better. But I'm looking forward to watching the Philadelphia Phillies this year play. So for me, first wild card Milwaukee, second is San Diego, third is Philly.
Like I said, I had the Mets, Cardinals, and Padres winning the division. I do think the Braves are up there as far as talent goes in that league. Would not surprise me if they topped the Mets. I am not with you with them taking a big step back. I don't think they'll win the division, but they will be the wild card there. Dodgers, while I do have them not winning their division, it's a rarity that happens. I do think they take a step back. They're still a fantastic team. They're still a team that's going to make a move or two at the deadline. And the Dodgers are going to be a wild card team. And for those that are thinking we're going to see Warrior pitcher Connor Brogdon back in the playoffs like we saw last year, it was such a cool story. I had fun writing the article about it for the Tribune.
I'm afraid I've got some bad news.
It's not going to be the Phillies in the playoffs. The Milwaukee Brewers, I am with you. Yelich, I think, has a good bounce back season. He has definitely struggled. He got knocked out of, what was it, the ESPN top 100? Mm-hmm. He wasn't even their top 100
right
this year. I think he has a decent enough bounce back. Pitching is really good for that team, and that will to propel them into the playoffs. But I will say, I like Denny's call of Cincinnati. I think the NL Central is deeper than a lot of people think. I think the Pirates are also on the up and coming move. I think they're a pretty good team too. Reds are going to be fun to watch. Cubs continue to try to rebuild a bit. The NL Central could go back to the ways we saw about 10 years ago, where 4 of them were within 6-7 games of each other, and it would not surprise me. But we have some really good teams out of that division. Mm-hmm. All right, who represents the National League in the World Series?
I will give you 3 players. 3 players. Paul Goldschmidt, Nolan Arenado, and Wilson Contreras. You will see St. Louis in the World Series this year.
Do you think they can bring back Albert Pujols just for a little bit?
He's still there, isn't he? Still there on the side? You're gonna give him some lessons swinging the bat.
Just give him a bat. Just put him on the roster for a little bit, especially if you're trying to make this run. Just come on, Albert. Get out here and DH for us a couple times. It'd be great.
Yeah, I think St. Louis is going to be that team that is just going to be a spark, and with those 2 guys on the corners, I think anything's possible.
Oreo material, Jesus. I've already mentioned it a few times. I'm all in on San Diego. I think they are that team to beat in the National League, and they will be in the World Series. They will take on Toronto, and the Padres will win the World Series. Who do you got?
Yeah, I think St. Louis comes away with the win over. It'll be St. Louis and New York is where I go, but I think St. Louis will come away with the win in the series. 6 games.
We're even going games now. So let's just get to opening day. Again, opening day, 2 days away. When we come back on this show next week, we're going to have regular season baseball to talk about. I'm very excited. All right.
How about
the first hour? But
how about before we get out? And it's just because I think this cool story. As Sergio Romo is stepping away, retiring. How about the story about having the kids signing his hat
Yes, that was very cool. I've never been a Sergio Romo fan. I've hated his antics on the field, but that was a cool way to go out. And props to Sergio Romo for showing how much care he has for the fans. Like you said, he had the kids signing his hat before he would sign anything for them, and then wore it on the field. A weird way to have your final game be a spring training game, but he was not going to make the roster. It's still just a very cool moment. He also had a picture of, you know how kids in kindergarten will have, this is my first day of kindergarten, I like this and all that. It was, this is my last day in the major leagues. I'm 42 years old or whatever, and all the different things. It was great. Yeah. Props to Sergio Romo for that. All right. You are watching the R&R Sports Report. You can follow us or like us or all the other stupid social media stuff on YouTube and Facebook. We are under 30 away from 700 followers on Facebook. So we thank you guys so much for that. But now it is time once again for that good old sports related draft. And Robert, you did win last week. Or no, wait, I didn't put last week. What was last week? We tied last week, right? What was last week? I didn't add it to our history. What was the thing I nominated?
I don't remember now.
I have to go back and look. But we tied last week because it was 1-1 is what it ended up being. And I'm completely blanking on where we were going. It was one that I really thought I was dead set winning on. And best
Danny won.
Danny won, yes. It was the best exhibition tournament / games. That's what it was. So we tied that one, but that was the one I brought up. So you get to bring it up this week. No, WrestleMania is a little bit later in the show. Don't worry. WrestleMania is coming.
So we posed this one, and you and I talked about it, and I threw it out there. We talked about it. We wanted a viewer choice pick, and so thank you to our buddy, Mr. Denny Grubb. This one comes from him. I kind of
one of 327 that he sent in.
I did love what we were talking about in the conversation between him and Megan. Megan wanted us to do Olympic events, both winter and or
well, maybe come Olympic times.
And so that one was cool. But like you said, Denny threw out like, God, how many? 400 or so, give or take. And from who would you want to have dinner with to all-time uniforms. We even had one repeat. I forget who it was. Wanted to do the repeat of team names of minor league teams. I put up our old picture. I had saved that. So, but I'm going with this one. So Denny Grubb, this one's for you. The one coach from all time you would like to have lunch with. That is our draft today. So,
and it's an interesting draft, and this one's so tough to decide on which way you want to go. And just seeing my results and your results, I can tell you and I went. No, you don't, because you and I went in completely different directions.
Yeah,
you just went. I want the greatest coaches. I want the ones that are going to be fun. Give me the ones that are going to be an enjoyable time to sit down and lunch. If I wanted the best coaches, it was all right. Bill Belichick. Is that going to be a fun lunch? No,
that dude doesn't
lunch. I went for entertainment values. The ones that are going to give me the craziest stories, along with fantastic experiences throughout the game of baseball. Bobby Knight was definitely one that I had thought of. Ooh, I hit the wrong one. Bobby Knight was one I did think about, but I went with one that's a little eccentric in the world of baseball. Was he the most successful coach? Not really. But seeing his interviews are hilarious to me. He is one of the people out there that have really changed the game, and I would love to sit down with him and kind of talk about his thought process and how that all worked out, how the shift came to be, how using the reliever as the starter and bringing the starter in a little bit later worked out. Joe Madden, who was with Tampa Bay for so long, then went to Chicago, that didn't quite work out super well for him. Again, was he the most successful coach? No, but he really had a different way of looking at the sport. And to me, if I'm looking for a coach that I want to sit down with, I want to be the one where I can pick their brain on because they've changed something, or there would just be fun as hell to be around for an hour instead of let's talk about the 38 championships you won. That's not as fun. So again, Joe Madden is my first pick.
Yeah, and that's a good one. And when you put that down, it made me think of a different manager. And I'll say his name right now. And he didn't go on my list, but when you put that down, and I kind of thought that was where you were going to entertainment value. For me, if that would have had to been probably Bobby Valentine. That was the first name that popped in my mind when you said Joe Madden, and I thought, okay, I have to stick to my guns of where I was going 1 and 2. And then after that, I was going a different direction. Listen, I'm going to go, and I'm going this direction just because of his work ethic, how things change. How could you not go with the greatest college basketball coach of all time, John Wooden? What that guy did, and you read his book, you read about how he changed his work ethic of how his players used to see him in there sweeping his own gym, cleaning things up, designing, and always wanting to chat with his players and help them grow. Needless to say, you got 10 championship. Denny, I had Earl Weaver in my head too a few times. 15 titles. Yeah, he does have the numbers.
Yeah.
But he was that fixture at UCLA that everybody wanted to be with.
Like I said, this is exactly where I thought you were going to go with when you started putting out accolades as your notes. I'm like, I don't care about those. It's just, will they be fun? You're a fantastic coach. If we did greatest coaches of all time, which I don't know if we have or not, but he would definitely be up there. But I don't know if Lunch would be that great. Second round, a second pick, somebody that I know would be a great time. We've talked about listening to him in the 90s. He was the face of the video game that I played for many years before he stepped away from it and a company completely made it implode. I know he has fantastic conversations because he drives a bus everywhere he goes. So that's a lot of hours to talk. It's John Madden. I would love to sit down and talk to Madden about the different aspects of the way he goes into football. Because, he was a coach. He was a commentator. He was in the video game world. I'm trying to get into the sports world through commentating and that aspect, or just media in general. And I can pick his brain that way. So to me, John Madden is almost perfect for my aspect because I can hit him on the coaching stuff. I can have some fun with the video game stuff. But in the end, a lot of it is about broadcasting. And that is why I'm taking John Madden.
Yeah, I was hoping he was going to be there, but I figured you were going a different spot with that one. So John Madden is probably one of the best commentators we will ever, if we see anybody like him ever again. So for me, again, I'm going old. I'm going
because you are old.
Here it is all about the coaching, and what for me in this one, why I went this direction was to think about how he designed his plays, how he ran his plays, what he was able to do in an era where he had to deal with war. He had to deal with people leaving and not being there from season to season. And I'm going to go Newt Rockne, what he was able to do to help. He wasn't the one that introduced the forward pass, but he helped revolutionize it. He changed the way that the offenses lined up. I'm a defensive minded guy, and I love what he was talking about doing his 7-2-2 defense, having 7 linemen on the front line. But that's when the football game that we knew prior was all about the run. How do you go? And Newt Rockne was the one that set this up, and just to pick his mind to see what influenced him, why he would do this. Darn good and well, that's why we have numbers in our gaps and responsibilities is because of this defense that he set up. So I for being a defensive coach, that's where I'd love to just to have a conversation about it.
Again, great coach, great philosophies. Would he be fun at lunch? Probably not. All right. What is the topic of this sports related draft again before I give you my third pick?
We'd like to have one coach from all time you would like to have lunch with.
You know who I'd like to have lunch with? A man that knows his food. I made this pick, and I almost made it my first pick. But I knew you were never going to go this route. So I was able to save it for the third. I want a coach that I could say, hey, coach, let's go to lunch. And he's going to go, I know a place. No matter what city we're in, the man's going to know exactly where we need to go. And that is Andy Reid. Give me Andy Reid to take me out to a great spot somewhere for some good lunch. Period. Done. I win. Andy Reid is going to make me eat good, sir. I'm going to eat good that day with Andy Reid. All right.
Yeah,
here's your last pick.
Putting pounds on. I'm going with the philosopher. I'm going to do it just because. Two reasons. I'm going to say it. Michael Jordan, Scottie Pippen, Dennis Rodman, to manage those guys and what he did, and then to go and win with Kobe and Shaq. I've got to go Phil Jackson. I mean, what he had to manage with all those guys. I want to know how he managed and dealt with all of these guys and their attitudes and all that. I think, and what he is as a philosopher and what he thinks about away from the game. So I'm going to go Phil Jackson. So
all right, well, you can go do yoga with Phil Jackson. I'm going to go eat ribs with Andy Reid. That's just how it's going to work. All right, let us know who wins. It's going to be interesting because you and I went completely different directions here. And again, thank you to Denny Grubb for the idea. It did make this one really entertaining and interesting to go through.
I have to say this. Every
no
one of the ones,
buttering up before
no. Every one of the ones that Denny came up with, those coaches crossed my mind. Yeah. You know,
you're buttering up.
Bobby Knight.
I'm done. No buttering up. Nope. All right. The one coach from all time you would like to have lunch with, I have Joe Madden, John Madden, and Andy Reid. You have John Wooden, Knute Rockne, and Phil Jackson. Let us know whose draft was better and who wins this week. While we wait for that, let's quickly touch on the NCAA Final Fours, because I don't think most people will be following them as much as we would have thought they would have with the way things kind of panned out. Again, I did end up winning the men's bracket, as you lost Alabama and Houston on the same day, just back to back. And
within
that
a few
allowed
hours
me to get the win. And then it came down to Virginia Tech and Ohio State last night. For us, Virginia Tech got the 10-point win. So, Robert, you did win the women's bracket. So, congratulations to you there. But let's get into it. We'll reset our brackets now, partially because in the men's bracket, we had nobody left. San Diego State was a 5 seed. They'll be taking on the 9 seed Florida Atlantic. And then the 4 seed UConn is going to take on the 5 seed Miami in the men's side on Sunday. Who wins those two games, and then who wins the championship?
As much of a heater as Florida Atlantic has been on, I think San Diego State is going to win that one. I love what that one's doing. If I say Miami, will Eric not be upset with me? I mean, but watching UConn just obliterate Gonzaga on Saturday and to beat that team by 30 points. And I think I sent you a snapshot of the stats of what Gonzaga did. It just hands down to the defense of UConn. So I think it's going to be San Diego State and UConn. Sorry, Eric. I hate to go against Miami again, but watching that dominant performance, I honestly think it's UConn's to lose now.
I do think UConn probably is the favorite, especially with the performance that they put on against Gonzaga. Though I will say Gonzaga was not showing much offensive prowess that entire weekend. They snuck by UCLA only because Drew Timme was a beast in that entire game and kept them in it while everyone else struggled to shoot. Obviously, it was somebody else hitting the big three to win the game, but it wasn't like Gonzaga was going fantastically offensively before that. And I do think the Bulldogs kind of just gave up there in the last 10, 15 minutes and let it kind of get away. I'm with you with San Diego State for sure. Florida Atlantic, fantastic story to get to the Final Four. I do think after this long week off, before getting into the games, some of those butterflies are really going to hit. It's really going to start hitting some of these guys. maybe the moment's going to be a bit too big because, again, now you're playing in this ridiculous gym where things just are going to feel completely different. It's not even a gym, the stadium that'll feel completely different. So I'm going to go San Diego State as well. And you know what? I was waiting for Eric to make his pick because I don't want to make it sound like I'm trying to lean him one way, but I do agree. UConn is now the favorite. What has happened to all the favorites? They all go down. Mm-hmm. Give me Miami to pull the upset on UConn, but San Diego State I don't even know if that'd be an upset anymore. It'd be a 5 versus a 5. But San Diego State, the Aztecs of all teams, will cut down the Nets in the wildest NCAA tournament we have ever seen. And this is also a reason why we don't need to expand anything with this tournament. Mm-hmm. We have now hit Crazy Town. Crazy Town is great.
Love it, Denny.
Yes, Bobby Knight would probably know where to eat to. I'll give him that. So give me San Diego. You said UConn to win it all, right?
Yep.
I said San Diego State. So congratulations to Florida Atlantic for winning the whole thing. The women's Final Four, a little bit more chalky. 2 1 seeds, a 2 and a 3. South Carolina and Iowa. Well, I think this is Saturday, right? Are they Saturday, Monday?
I believe
and the men are Sunday, Tuesday. Is that right?
I think so.
To me, that game right there is the game of the weekend. Men, women, anything. What Iowa has been able to do has been fantastic. Obviously, South Carolina has been ridiculous. Virginia Tech, LSU, I'm not as interested as much, but who do you got in these two games?
So these Final Four are going to be played on Friday night. Yeah, okay. So LSU and Virginia Tech will be at I believe 4:00, 6:00 for South Carolina and Iowa. Listen, we were behind South Carolina the entire time. I'm going to stick with South Carolina, and I'm going to go out on a limb, and I'm going to take LSU to beat Virginia Tech. But I think South Carolina wins it all.
Do you think Iowa has any chance?
Listen, Iowa has played quite well. I think they could. There's a chance that they could play, but I don't think they're as dominant as South Carolina.
See, we both took South Carolina, and I'm going to stick with South Carolina. However, from the little bit that I have been able to watch of Caitlin Clark from Iowa, especially in that last game that they played, where she put up just ridiculous numbers. What was it, against Louisville, where she scored 41 points? She scored over the least amount of points that she has scored in this tournament was 29 points in the second round.
So you're saying
that was minutes. Excuse me. 22 points against Georgia was her lowest. But I'm tempted to go Iowa. But I think South Carolina is the more complete team. But it will be Clark needing to do what Drew Timme did against UCLA to have a chance. She's going to have to completely go insane in this game.
So with that being said, you saying that means that you're relinquishing your win on the best buzzer beaters because she hit that big one a few weeks ago that you said.
Absolutely not. Just because she's been a fantastic player doesn't make her buzzer beater any more important.
I still think I think she's a great player.
Regular season game. Now, if she hit that buzzer beater to beat South Carolina, then sure. But that wasn't against South Carolina. That was against some random ass team in a random ass regular season game. And that changed the importance of that at all. But I'll take South Carolina. I'll take Virginia Tech. Kind of boring 1-1, but that's kind of where the women have been. The top have stayed the top for the most part, and I will stick with what I picked and take South Carolina the whole way. And we will go from there. Get to some LC stuff before we get into our WrestleMania talk if Robert Taylor is still around. Big news that came out on Wednesday of last week. Of course, the day after our show, because that's just how things work. But longtime LC women's basketball coach Brian Orr steps away after 22 years. Ridiculous winning record, over 75% winning percentage. He will step away. And again, this was surprising to me is I always have a meeting with Alicia, the sports information director, on Wednesday to kind of go through what she wants me to write about and kind of create some extra stories to work on, as well as, all right, here are the games that you're covering and stuff. And literally 3 hours later, I see LC make the post that Brian Orr is retiring. And I'm like, you could have told me. I would have kept the secret. She goes, we didn't know. Yeah, so within that 3 hours, the news broke.
Yeah, I was the one that texted you and I said, what the heck? And I was as shocked as you were. Mm-hmm. And you had no clue. So, yeah. I mean, he must have kept it under wraps so tight. But, 22 years following up with some great athletes. I'm shocked to see where he's going and what he's going to do over the next little bit. I think I'm more curious about who is going to follow in his footsteps.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be very interesting. That team is stacked still. I mean, they continue to make tournament runs. They lose a couple of seniors, but Callie Stevens will be back as a senior. And they had a lot of underclassmen do really good things this last year. So it's a really good position to come into. I tend to lean to the person that's been there. Gamey Kaylin Orlandi. She's been the associate coach for a few years. Let her have the reins now and continue what the Warriors have been doing. That's what I would like to see.
Yeah, another name that flew out was another player friend that she played with, Brittany Tackett. And these are all according to Lewis Morning Tribune. They also threw out the name Tiffany Ulmer and Taylor Pierce. So be interested to see where they fall on that short list, or even if a couple of them make the short list.
Right. And who knows how long this will take or what the procedures will be. I am very much out of the loop on that, but hopefully we'll be able to have the new head coach announced sooner rather than later, and we can talk about it and maybe get that person on the show before the start of the next season. Obviously very happy for Brian Orr to be able to retire at this point and hopefully enjoy retirement or whatever he's going to do after this. But I had finally had a pretty good sit down chat with him during the season while doing one of the articles I was doing for the lcwarriors.com website. And I was like, all right, next year we'll be able to have a couple more conversations, try to get him on the show. He's a very laid back guy, very insightful, very open about his opinions on things. And I thought he would have been a great guest. And then he retired. Maybe he knew I was going to ask him to be on the show. He's like, I'm out. I can't do this. All right, let's continue with LC Sports real quick. Baseball had a rough weekend, especially the bats were not there in Canada. They did not get through customs. We'll just say that. British Columbia, who struggled last weekend, took 3 of 4 from the Warriors, winning 4-0, 2-1. LC was able to get a win 3-1, and then British Columbia closed out the series 3-1 as well. So pitching on both sides continues to be great. Bats were not so much by either team, but now it starts to make things a little bit more interesting. We have one more homestand for LC. That's this weekend. If you've not seen the Warriors yet this year and you want to see them in regular season action, you have 4 games to do it. Saturday and Sunday. Doubleheader on Saturday at noon. Doubleheader on Sunday at 11 a.m. against Oregon Tech. And Oregon Tech currently right now is in second place in this conference at 7-1. Bushnell technically is undefeated or is 4-0 and in first place, but they have not played one of those series yet. Then College of Idaho is third at 5-3, and LC is in fourth. So we've been talking about how, LC is going to have all this postseason experience, and Harris Field is going to be jam-packed with baseball, with the Cascade Conference Tournament, and then the opening round, and then the World Series. Right now, if the season ended today, LC would not be hosting the Cascade Conference Tournament.
Yeah, they've got to figure out something with the bats. As 3 weeks ago when they played or 2 weeks ago when they were playing back up home, the bats were quite well. All of a sudden, it's like nobody could hit anything. So it's going to be interesting to see how these this last homestand really pans out, and needing the fans there to support them against this second place team in the CC. Yeah, so I've got I believe I have the afternoon game on Saturday and both games on Sunday. It is senior day for these guys too. So they've got to get something going against this ball club and climb out of the cellar.
Yeah, I think they got to win all 4.
Yeah.
So there you go. Definitely come out, check out some baseball. I might stop by. I don't work either of those 2 sets, but I may come just to watch a little bit before I go watch WrestleMania. If I do, it'll most likely be Sunday instead of Saturday. We're doing Addie's birthday stuff on Saturday. She turned 6 years old on Friday, and I'm not ready for it. Not at all. I'm not okay with it.
And Bubba turns 4 on Saturday himself. So
it's crazy.
Some
other LC sports. Golf was not scheduled to play this last weekend, but they added in a couple of individuals went and played at the UPS Spring Invitational. Jorgen Viken, once again, has been red hot. He ended up winning the entire tournament, shot a career low 66 on Sunday to do so. Devin Caruso finished 4th, and then Alexandra Schmidt finished 2nd on the women's side, just 1 stroke behind the winner. They will be at the Walla Walla Invitational on Monday and Tuesday. It'll be the final regular season tournament for both the men and the women before they get into conference tournament play and nationals and all of that. Track and field had the Bucks scoring and multi-invitational in Spokane. Just go through some of the winners from LC. Christian Bothwell won the decathlon. Sarah Hathaway won the heptathlon. Connor Turbin won the 10,000 meter race. Bryson Brown took the crown. Jokes. In the 3,000 steeplechase. London Kirk won the 400 meters, and Madison Kelly won the 100 meter hurdles. And tennis right now is in Kentucky. 4-day trip down there. They were unsuccessful to win their first 2 matches. They still played Georgetown and Midway in Lexington, Kentucky on Wednesday and Thursday. And that's not the Georgetown Bulldogs. That's the NAIA Georgetown team. However, this trip that LC is on right now, all the teams that they've been playing are either ranked or receiving votes in the top 25. It's once again, Kai Fong scheduling a very difficult travel schedule for LC for sure. High school sports, sir, how's Clarkston doing?
Well, Clarkston ended up the baseball side, no score reported, but I'm assuming.
Oh, yeah. I forgot to put that in there. Before you get to Clarkston, I forgot. Dance team now, a thing for sports here at LC. That'll be really tough for us to talk about, I think.
I did add that. Check out the read on that. It's I kind of got a good laugh out of Alicia of how she was going to cover that, but it's going to be interesting to see what we can do with the dance team competitively.
There you go. If we hit 700, Robert Hagan has to dance with the dance team.
No. As far as baseball, both Clarkston matchups, both softball and baseball were postponed because of weather up in East Valley. So both of them will play on Saturday, as they will both host Pullman in doubleheaders. The girls up here at Lincoln Middle School and the boys, the baseball field at Adams Field, both at noon and 2.
For Lewiston, softball finally did get their first win on Saturday as they played 4 games down in southern Idaho, but did lose the other 3. So they start 1-5 on the year. They were mercy ruled by Owyhee, and that school just wins everything. Lost to Mountain View 5-4. Beat, is that Timberline?
Timberline of Boise. Timberline of Boise. Sorry,
your typing was interesting. No, Timberline. Lewiston beat them 8-7, but then lost to Eagle 13-3. They will have a doubleheader a week from today at Moscow. As for Lewiston, they also were down in southern Idaho. They won 3 out of 4. So they got their record back up to 500. They beat Centennial 4-2, lost to Mountain View 11-10, and then took wins over Eagle 5-2 and Rocky Mountain 4-1. Again, I really think this team could be state bound, but they cannot have a weekend like they had against Lake City a couple weekends ago if they want to do so. Be a fun one against Moscow a week from today. Doubleheader starts at 2 p.m. up there at Church Field. Again, that will possibly delay the start of our show next week. We want to give you a full 2 hours of both of us up here talking, and 6 p.m. will be close. So if we're delayed, I don't think it'll be too crazy long, but it could be a few minutes behind. All right, sir. Let's get to the biggest topic of the whole show. Are you ready?
Mm-hmm.
No, I said, are you ready?
I don't even care if there's people out here going, it's fake, it's scripted, I don't care. I love this stuff. WrestleMania weekend, one of the funnest weekends of the year. I love that they've made it a 2-night event now, so it's not a 19-hour show. And they've spread everything else. NXT has their, well, it's not TakeOver anymore. What is it? Stand and Deliver or whatever on Saturday. We get the Hall of Fame on Friday night after SmackDown. Obviously, Raw also will be in LA on Monday, and that's usually the craziest Raw of the year. So just 5 straight days of ridiculous wrestling goodness, if you will. But obviously the big show, WrestleMania, for 2 nights. We're going to go through the entire card, give our predictions. But real quick, how hyped are you for this year's Mania?
I'm excited. I like with a couple of the storylines where they have gone with them. Jumping on board with, listen, Robert Taylor, that's, I'm excited.
Awesome.
I was excited just to go to a house show this last year. So, I think it's going to be awesome. I think there's going to be a couple upsets. I'm hoping there's a couple upsets, but, we will see. I already watched. It was bad. I've already watched Raw. I'm actually caught up through tonight, and so I'm ready to go in Friday with watching. I'll probably end up watching the Hall of Fame and SmackDown SmackDown live, where I can stay on top of it because I'm working the LC games, both of them, so it's going to be a little interesting for me to try to watch both days of WrestleMania on Saturday and Sunday.
Also, speaking of the Hall of Fame, not a huge class announced so far. I'm shocked that we have not gotten a ton, though maybe it is just because of the way that they record it now, that they don't want a ton of people involved. Obviously, Rey Mysterio is going to be the headliner. The Great Muta, who I don't think ever wrestled once for the WWE, but he's wrestled for 117 years. Very deserving to be in the WWE Hall of Fame. Andy Kaufman, we talked about a week or two ago, is going to be inducted, of course, by Jerry Lawler, who had that big rivalry. Go watch is it Man on the Moon? Is that the Jim Carrey movie about Andy Kaufman? It's absolutely fantastic. And then just announced on Monday, Stacy Keibler is also going to be in this year's class at the Hall of Fame. What do you think of this year's Hall of Fame class, other than we only have 4 people?
I'm okay with that. About time that Kaufman gets in. I like that. I even messaged you. I didn't realize Muta was still somewhat kind of wrestling.
He's been doing his retirement tour.
Yeah. I'm a huge Rey Mysterio fan. I just hope things go a little different for him on Saturday and I'm hoping that match is going to be Saturday before I can watch it, but well deserved with that one. And the biggest moment I remember of Stacy Keibler was with Stone Cold Steve Austin, middle of the ring, drinking a cold beer. And that was my favorite moment
thing to remember.
Her and him drinking beer in the middle of the arena.
I was there at WrestleMania 19. It's the one WrestleMania I've been able to go to, where Stacy Keibler and Tori Wilson fought the Miller Lite Catfight Girls. Do you remember those commercials? from the early 2000s. It was a dumb commercial and it was a really dumb segment, but that's what I remember from Stacy Keibler, is having a weird cat fight with the Miller Lite cat fight girls that ended up with Jonathan Coachman getting depantsed. That was the end of that segment at WrestleMania 19, which, by the way, greatest WrestleMania of all time is WrestleMania 19.
Because you were there.
No, that card is stacked. Absolutely stacked. That entire card. There was one bad match. If you don't count that weird cat fight thing, there was one bad match, and that was Undertaker against Big Show and A-Train in a handicap match, because Nathan Jones was not ready to be a superstar, and it was supposed to be a tag team, and it was horrible. It's not X7. It's not. X7 had a terrible main event. That was Rock Austin 2. We had Rock Austin 3. Until last year, we had the Austin's last match. And then he had to screw that up by facing Kevin Owens. But Michaels and Jericho was great. Hogan and McMahon was hilarity and craziness all in one. We had Angle and Brock Lesnar have a fantastic actual wrestling match before Brock Lesnar tried to break his own neck. Rey Mysterio and Matt Hardy at the opener was really good. Tag team triple threat was good. Women's match was good. It's all good. It's all good. Oh, stop it. You stop it. All right, let's get into predictions. By the way, we have not been told who won the sports-related draft. Denny and Eric both gave non-answers, which... All right, get into it. Prediction time. Austin Theory will be defending his United States Championship against...
Hello. It's
John Cena!
You weren't here. You stop. You stop. All right. Austin Theory, John Cena, United States Championship match. Who do you got and why?
I think I'm just going to go with Theory. I don't think they want to give the title back to John Cena. I kind of like what they were doing with him, telling him he's not ready. Now I think Theory has something that he really wants to prove in this one. So I'm taking him with a statement piece of defeating John Cena quite handily right in the middle of the ring.
I'm with you. I think this is a big moment for Austin Theory. He's very young. I think he's the future of this business, or one of the futures. I think he's going to be a main eventer. Mm-hmm. He kind of reminds me of a younger Randy Orton, where people don't like him because he's a bit too cocky, but his athleticism is fantastic. Just you people. Anyways. But I'm with you. Austin Theory, I think, will pick up the win. Cena's not going to stick around long enough to defend a title. So give me Theory. Now to the match that has the second best build on this card. I don't think there's a question on this. Got fully announced last week, finally. Rey Mysterio, after getting inducted in the Hall of Fame, will take on his son, Dominic Mysterio. And now, while storyline wise and character wise, it's going to be a fantastic fight, I can't imagine what these two were going through their rehearsals, through their practice time, through the prep time, working on a match together. What a cool father-son moment this is for those two. If you take the whole storyline out of it, I think the match is going to be great, but that's got to be a cool way for Rey Mysterio to kind of close out his career. I think.
I think that is a huge thing. I think he wins it. I honestly think Rey ends up winning it. I love that they're going to go against each other. I really hate the storyline. I just don't like the way. I mean, for him to get as vocal as he did with his mom, I think kind of took it a little bit too far for me, but that's just my opinion of it. But I think this is going to be one heck of a match. I think it will easily be one of the top 3 matches of WrestleMania.
I'm hoping the match is good. The build was really good. I'm with Robert Taylor, though. Give me Dominic Mysterio to get the win. yes, it would be great for Ray to kind of get the one over on his son, who's been a douchebag for months. But I do feel like Ray is winding down his career. And what do you do at the end of your wrestling career? You put somebody over, and it's perfect for him to give it to his son. Would not be surprised if Dominic demasks Ray and kind of ends his career right there. I would also not be surprised if on Friday they make it a hair versus mask match or some kind of weird stipulation of that sort. One of the weird filler matches that we have this year, with the women's tag team champions being stuck on two people that are in a non tag team championship match for I don't get the booking. But the women's showcase tag team match, Liv Morgan and Raquel Rodriguez versus Shotzi and Natalya versus Ronda Rousey and Shayna Baszler versus Chelsea Green and Sonya Deville. I'm going to take the one team that's really kind of been a team, and that's Ronda Rousey and Shayna Baszler. Chelsea Green and Sonya Deville would be the funniest winners of this group, but it'll be Rousey and Baszler so they can go on and take the tag team titles down the road.
I haven't figured out the Chelsea Green story side.
She's a Karen. She's a straight Karen.
It's like where she
wants to speak. I love Chelsea Green in that character because she keeps going up to Adam Pearce. Are you the manager? And every time he's like, yes, of Raw and SmackDown. I'm the manager of both. Because I'm going to go talk to the manager of SmackDown. It's me. That's who. I love it. It's been great.
I'm going to go with who I've been following for a while now, and that is actually Liv Morgan. I like Liv Morgan. I think Liv and Raquel are going to do good. I'm going to go. I think it's going to come down between them and Ronda Rousey and Shayna Baszler, but I'm going to take Liv with the win.
Either way, I don't think I'm going to care about this match.
No.
Hell in a Cell, Edge versus Finn Balor, the Demon Finn Balor. I think the entrances of this are going to be fantastic. And while I do think storyline-wise you would have it be Edge, to me this is a lot like Rey Mysterio, where Edge knows he's coming up to the latter part of his career. It's been a good comeback for him. But he wants to put over Finn Balor and really make him that next big star for WWE. So give me Finn Balor.
I think this is going to be one of those top matches in there too. And you kind of hinted a second ago, Finn Balor's promo last night on Raw was one of the best ones I had seen in a long time. And they kind of cut in and out of his demon side. I can't wait. Like you said, that was the first thing when I thought of when I saw that promo last night was, man, can you imagine who's going to come out first? Is it going to be him coming out first to his old music, or is it going to be Edge coming out in the whole fire side of it? So I think it's going to boil down to that one, but that's another one I'm looking forward to watching.
Who did you take to win?
I'm going to take Edge. I think he's on his way out too, but I'd be happy either way with that one too.
What most likely will be your main event of night one, the SmackDown Women's Championship match, your champion Charlotte Flair against Rhea Ripley. And I'm just saying it right now, it's going to be a huge weekend for the Judgment Day. Dom's going to win, Finn Balor's going to win, and Rhea Ripley will be your new SmackDown Women's Champion. Listen, I love Charlotte, but she is a bona fide heel. Some people are just like set in what they can play. They tried to have Charlotte come back and be a face after, she left for a while to heal some injuries. She also got married during that time, comes back. They wanted her to be the face. It's just not working. These two fought a couple years ago at a Mania. They had Flair win that one. Rhea gets the win back here and is your new champion. Rhea is fantastic.
I can see her easily coming and taking the title. And that's why you see at the end of my notes, I put question mark because that was still one of those 50-50 flips. I don't see it's changing of the guard quite yet. I think Charlotte holds on, but it'll be an interesting match in that one. And huge fan of Rhea Ripley, especially when she came out of NXT a few years ago when I finally got back into it again. So
for sure. Now, what should be your main event of night one, the greatest storyline in wrestling of all time. I don't think there's a better storyline that has gone this long in wrestling. I mean, there's going to be people that will disagree. Maybe they'll say Elizabeth and Randy Savage. I mean, that one went on for years and had a great payoff too. But the Sami Zayn stuff with the Bloodline has just been phenomenal. The pops that they have gotten from crowds over just different things that have happened over the last 2 months is insane what those crowds have reacted to. But it's Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn versus the Usos for the undisputed tag team championships. And it has to be Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn ending the longest tag team run of all championship run of all time.
I think so too. Just seeing what they have done. I thought the storyline was going to take a different twist, when Sammy got into Jay's ear a little bit. I thought, I thought that was going to twist it a little bit going into WrestleMania. But if that happens and they win, could we see the brothers go their separate way and everything?
The brothers won't split.
So it'll be interesting to see. But I'm going to take Kevin and Sammy also.
Yeah. I mean, the brothers could split from the rest of the bloodline, maybe, but
right.
I don't think we're going to see Jay and Jimmy be on opposite sides of things. Lita, Becky Lynch, and Trish Stratus taking on Damage Control. And I'm going to take the baby faces here, Lita, Becky Lynch, and Trish, because I do believe Damage Control on that Monday after Raw are going to break up and finally not be a thing anymore because it just has not worked.
Yeah, I'm actually gonna stay with Damage Control. I think what Bayley has come back and done. It's not 100% of what she was when she came back, but I don't know. I kind of like watching Dakota Kai and Io Sky and what they can do. I would be very shocked if they somehow don't get the titles back within the next month or so.
No, because that's going to be Ronda Rousey and Shayna Baszler. We just talked about that. How about big men slapping man meet? Omos and Brock Lesnar in a match that if it goes over 5 minutes, it's a crime. Period. End of story. We're done. Give me Brock Lesnar after he somehow F5s the 7'25" Omos.
Does he suplex city him too?
Yes, absolutely.
I'm going the other direction. You got a 410-pound dude. I don't think. I wish they were giving more to Omos and letting him bring this character a little bit more front out and people taking on, instead of seeing him like once every 3 weeks. He comes out and
he's just.
beats
I
somebody.
Think he got brought up before he was ready, and even now he's still not there. I mean, he was behind AJ Styles there for a year or so, and now with MVP, I don't think he has it, but Brock Lesnar is F5ing this man, and it's going to be crazy to see. Period. So who are you taking?
I'm going to take Omos.
You're insane.
I know.
Seth freaking Rollins. Did I say? Yeah. Versus Robert Taylor's favorite wrestler of the world, Logan Paul. It's got to be Seth Rollins. But these entrances are going to be fantastic. Logan Paul has killed it in every match that he has been in. This could steal the show. This is a match that could definitely steal WrestleMania, but I am taking Seth Rollins.
I'm going to take Seth Rollins too. I think he's going to end up taking another Logan Paul right hand, but I think Seth figures a way to get a good stomp in and pins him.
That's fair. Men's Tag Team Showcase, Ricochet and Braun Strowman versus the Street Profits versus Alpha Academy versus the Viking Raiders. Surprised no New Day on this show at all. But that's, I guess, once they've lost Big E, hopefully Big E makes his return either at Mania or the Raw after. I know he's getting close. But be a fun little tag team match. Alpha Academy is the one team I know is not going to win because they're going to have shenanigans with the male model people. I don't know. Give me the Street Profits.
I would love to see Ricochet and Braun Strowman with this one, but they have been playing up the Viking Raiders a lot lately. I think Eric and Ibar can make something happen in this one. So I'm going to go out on a limb and say they do something with them and help boost their WrestleMania cred.
Another match that could steal the show, I think, this weekend is your triple threat match for the Intercontinental Championship between Drew McIntyre, Sheamus, and Gunther. Gunther, the Intercontinental Champion. Who do you got and why?
I'm going to take Gunther. I mean, that dude is unbelievable. As much as I am a Drew McIntyre fan, I love Drew McIntyre. I loved seeing Sheamus come back and those guys work together, but I think this new up-and-comer, Gunther has now been with the business, at least up here now, a year and a half, about a year and a half.
Yeah, he was Walter for a while.
But I love what they're doing with him. Not too impressed with his cronies with the rest of Imperium, but I like what he's doing.
It would be great to see Gunther go out and make the longest Intercontinental Championship run ever. I know he's getting close to it, but I do think a certain somebody is going to need challengers for a bigger belt this summer. So we got to get the belt off of Gunther so he can go be a number one contender elsewhere. So give me Drew McIntyre to kind of spoil things for Sheamus, and then Drew and Sheamus can have a nice little summer feud over the IC belt. That's where I'm going. Raw Women's Championship match, Bianca Belair versus Asuka. Asuka has come back with her crazy clown makeup stuff from the Rumble. It's kind of reinvigorated that character. Bianca Belair has been a stud at these Mania events. Who do you got?
I'm going to take Bianca Belair, even though I love the attitude and the faces of the other side of Asuka. I think it's going to be an interesting match, but I think Bianca's going to be able to handle it. She right now is her and Rhea Ripley right now are the women's division.
Yeah, that's definitely fair. That's fair. I was trying to find it real quick, but Mr. Denny Grubb brought up a certain Undertaker. There is somebody in this match that is undefeated at WrestleMania. I think it's only 3-0, but it's still undefeated. That's Bianca Belair, and I say she stays undefeated and retains the title. And then, of course, final match, the undisputed WWE Universal Championship, Cody Rhodes versus...
Acknowledge me!
Your champion of over 900 days, Roman Reigns. And as much as I want to see Roman hit quadruple digits and have a title reign of over 1,000 days and take it into SummerSlam, the story's been too good. Cody coming back from injury, his promos have been fantastic. The buildup has been good. I know Roman's is planning on having some family time once he does lose the title. And I think that comes up right here. The end of the bloodline. Do the Usos get involved and cost Roman? Do we get a moment like in AEW where a part of the faction comes in to make the save and they stop right before the ring and they turn around and walk off and let their buddy lose? There's so many different ways this can go, and I'm very excited for it. And very excited for the pop when Cody Rhodes wins the championship.
Listen, what Sami Zayn has done to this bloodline and what was added in at War Games and getting them in and being in the ears of Jimmy and Jay, I think it is awesome. How many times have we talked a big pay-per-view and I have been down on Roman Reigns. I don't think I've ever picked him but one time in all of the
You've
ones
been
we've
wrong
done.
a lot.
I'm excited with this one. Give me Cody Rhodes. He takes over, and he is the new heavyweight champion of the world.
And for the record, I'm picking Cody Rhodes. But I am acknowledging the tribal chief. That is who I'm rooting for. But I don't see it happening. PBA, they were at the Kokomo Classic last weekend. How about old Packy Hanrahan getting his first title? If you have not seen it, which I'm sure most of you have not, because you're not bowling nerds like us, go watch the House Bowling YouTube channel and watch the behind the scenes stuff of his match play and the interview that he had right after winning the title and the tears that were shed on it. It's a very, very great interview. Packy just seems like a genuinely fantastic human being and very excited to see him win that. I do wish it was on TV instead of this random ass bowl TV tournament stuff that just doesn't feel as important, but very cool for Packy. They're doing the USBC Masters right now, and surprise, surprise, Jason Beaumonte is your leader there. Do we want to talk about Aussie rules?
Not really, because my team has kind of stunk it up, and I know some of yours.
My team is winning the wooden spoon.
Yeah,
it's almost a lock now.
The way
you had to have mistyped this. Melbourne did not score 2 points, right? I did not see any of that game, but
nope, I mistyped it.
Okay,
so
that's totally fine. I just saw that score and lost my mind.
Yeah, and there you go. Dad and I talked about Earl Anthony the other day, Denny, and he brought up Earl Anthony and what he could do with a bowling ball a few years ago. So, yeah, 100%.
Geelong is 0-2. Eric Watkins' Western Bulldogs are 0-2. Hawthorne is 0-2 by a long shot. They scored 37 points. They lost by over 80. It was brutal. So, as much as we love Aussie rules, it's not been a good start to our season. Games on TV this week for you. Western takes on Brisbane at 1:20 a.m. Pacific time on FS2. That's on Thursday. On Friday, 1:50 a.m. on FS1, it's Collingwood and Richmond. And then Saturday at 1:25 a.m. on FS2, it's St. Kilda and Essendon. And the one game that's partially in an okay time slot, Melbourne and Sydney at 10:20 p.m. Pacific time.
So watch that one. Yeah. Watch that one just right after WrestleMania is done. You got enough time to...
Yeah, absolutely. For sure. Hawthorne takes on a friend of the show, Harry Broadhurst's North Melbourne Roos, which is usually a time where I am excited for the Hawks because they will get the win. North Melbourne's 2-0. Hawthorne has not kept anything close. So the Hawks are going down in that one, which is sad. Absolutely sad. Real quick, hit us with 1 minute of golf.
It was an interesting weekend. If you did not watch any of the match play at the Dell, Scotty Scheffler comes back a couple of times to make it the next day, but he ends up going down. Sam Burns knocks him out of the semifinals on Sunday, one of his best friends. So Sam Burns picks up the win. Rory McIlroy knocks off Scheffler for third place as Cameron Young ends up second in that. I love match play. This was my favorite tournament to sit and watch. 36 holes of golf on Saturday and 36 on Sunday.
There you go. And then Circuit of the Americas. Actually, it was unable to watch this race, but Tyler Reddick ended up getting the win. Kyle Busch finished second, and Alex Bowman finished third. They'll be in Richmond on Sunday. So there you go. That's it. That's our show. Again, we didn't have a ton of topics, but a lot of fun was had. We have now predicted our World Series. Hagen thinks the Yankees will make it to the World Series, so I like his prediction more than mine. Eric has said that I am the winner of the sports-related draft. So I will take the victory there. I also, too, will probably steal some of Denny's ideas for next week's sports-related draft. Again, thank you for Denny for sending us a ton. Actually, you know what? No. Eric sent me a message last Tuesday, and he had said he was going to post it on your comment, and he never did. I am taking Eric's choice because I want to feel good about Aussie rules football. Okay.
Now remember, I've only been a 2-year guy.
No,
so.
but you can do this research. It's fine. Your team's 0-2, his team's 0-2, my team is 0-2. But Eric came up with a great sports-related draft, and I don't care if we get hit with copyright claims on the YouTube side of things for doing this. We're playing the music. Oh, maybe he posted after the last time I saw it. But best AFL winning themes. If you've never watched an Aussie rules game, when a team wins, they play music. Each team has their own theme.
Yep. I do know Geelong's. We are Geelong.
Yep.
Yep.
So there you go. Best themes for AFL teams. That is our sports-related draft for next week. Thank you to Eric for that one. He did message me. I have not looked back at our post since they first got launched. But that is where we're going next week. Again, real quick, next week we could be a few minutes late. I am covering a doubleheader for the Lewis and Bengal baseball team that starts at 2 p.m. So 6 p.m. might be tight, but it shouldn't be too much longer after that. And if it gets really bad, we can scramble and have Robert just start the show, and I will join in as we go. We'll talk about the first weekend of baseball. We'll talk about who won the 2 championship games. At that point, we'll be able to talk about WrestleMania, our sports-related draft, and so much more. Again, thank you guys so much for continuing to let this show grow as we're closing in on 700 followers. This is our 127th show, and we thank all of you. And, of course, thank you to Eric and Denny and Robert Taylor for hanging out through this entire episode and giving us your feedback as well. It just makes the show more fun. But for Robert Hagan, I am Randy Isbell. This is the R&R Sports Report, and until next week, we are